Okay, Tom again from Durham Precious Metals. In the last video, I said I would continue with this concept of interest, banks and creating interest. You hear it all the time. I've heard it quoted many ways. One such example would be if you were stuck on a desert island and I loaned you the only $10 in existence and asked you to pay back 11, I'd be asking the impossible. Yes, of course you would, because you'd actually be lending something that was tangible, and you're the only creator of it. And of course, if you're the only creator of it, the only way to get the 11th dollar would be for the loaner to create it again to add interest, which would be, ad infinitum. It's one of these paradoxes, right? So that would be correct. But here's the problem. In a complex system, we often hear this idea that, well, banks, they create the money out of thin air and quote unquote loan it into existence. And they don't really loan it. But anyway, loan it into existence for argument's sake. Yeah, but they don't create the interest. Well, is that really true? I think they do actually create the interest, and here's how. The same way that they create the principal. The principal is simply a keystroke in the computer. You owe us X amount, and then they create an amortization table for that payment, and it's plus interest. So they created the amount with a keystroke, and then they create the interest, amortize that all together. It's the same thing. They create the interest with a keystroke. What's not to understand here? But we perpetuate these myths. Now, do I agree with charging interest? I don't know. I think maybe banks should charge a service fee. They can call it an interest if they want. I think possibly that compound interest might be a problem, a compounding mechanism in a linear universe of money. I don't know if that works mathematically. Somebody with a real mathematical background might want to put that to task and see. I tend to think it doesn't work, as is evidenced by the amount of debt. Think about it. We have banks, let's say in the city near me, Toronto. Downtown Toronto skyline, the tallest buildings down there, other than the CN Tower, are banks. Is that a coincidence that they have first crack at money creation? I don't know. They charge compound interest that just keeps adding and adding and adding. I mean, you buy $100,000 home at 6% interest. I think you end up paying like $147,000 in interest over and above the principal over a 25-year period. It's a bit astronomical. Is it any wonder they have the tallest buildings in any city? Anyway, again, I'm not defending the banks. I'm not defending their practices. I'm not defending derivatives. I'm really on the side of truth. I think that if we want to take on this system at some point, then we have to be honest about what we're fighting. Otherwise, we'd be, hacking at the branches instead of at the root. We really need to understand the animal we're dealing with and what and the problems are and how they're actually created. So, anyway, this concept of banks create the principal but not the interest is false. Now, somewhere within that mechanism, maybe there does lurk another problem. But if we don't get past this veneer of looking at the simplistic situation of the non-creation of the interest, we'll never get down to the deeper level of, well, if that's not true, then what is the problem? What is it that they're doing that causes this imbalance in the mechanism of economics and society? So just another patriot myth I wanted to take a swing at there. I'm sure I'll get a lot of negative comments about it, but fire away. If you got a different story, I'd love to hear it, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for listening.